Hi, Mary. Can you hear me?
I'm going to unmute myself and you can see me. Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I was
Good.
trying to remember how you looked, and I do remember meeting you. Yeah.
Well, very good. Yep, this is me. So hopefully all will go well with this meeting and everything. Maybe I'll try and share my screen now and get some of these slides up here.
Yeah, and like my slides, if I say to you, let's put something up, then you can do it, but it's not, I just put them in case.
Okay, I'm just trying to find now. I'm not seeing these Google slides.
I sent them to your email, my slides.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see where they would be on here.
Oh.
Hmm.
I didn't load them up anywhere on this.
Yeah, no, I don't generally do that. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see.
Can you?
Please click. Your session has timed out, it says.
Okay, can you see this now?
Yeah.
You can see Skylark?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, okay. So then it worked. Oh, perfect. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought maybe you couldn't see it. Okay.
Yeah. A talking circle. Yeah. And
Okay.
then I sent you some other slides.
Oh, those I didn't get. Oh, you mean
Okay.
these? Unless you mean.
No, I sent you like a bunch of kind of like self-regulation slides.
Oh, okay. Those I didn't get. But if you
Oh,
have them,
why
uh,
did you get them? Let me just make sure that.
well, it may have been lost in a thread then because maybe I thought,
Oh, you know what? Sometimes I forget that my computer does this weird
well,
thing.
if you have them, then you could always share your screen and bring them up.
Yeah,
Like
let me
this.
let me let me open it.
Okay, because this will just be an impromptu kind of thing, I figure.
Yeah. But I like your question, so we can just talk about it. I don't have to. Slides might be a bit too tricky anyway.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? But I figured, well, we'll give it the option and see how we do. Now, so far, so it's 3 o'clock. Let's see if we have people joining us. And I hope I did it okay with getting participants. I'm not sure if they come in. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Because I think I had them be part of the waiting room just to make sure. Or no. Oh, okay. Well, here's Violet. So no, it seems to be working now. Okay. So we have Violet has joined us, which is great. And so I know that at least people can join in. Are you still there?
Yeah,
Mary?
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, good. So people are starting to join, which is great. So I'm just going to pause the sharing right now. And okay, so we'll just wait a little bit, Mary, for a few more
Yeah, of
people to
course.
join us. And hopefully we get a good turnout of people too. How are you surviving in this difficult time right now yourself?
I'm okay, I mean it's an adjustment of course because I think about things that we were doing just 2 months ago and I can't even imagine what that was like, to tell you the truth. And I get like waves of I don't know if you get this, but I get like deep waves of grief,
Yeah.
like missing something really important, which
Yeah.
I can't even put my finger on exactly what I'm missing, but I'm just missing my life as it was.
Yeah, and the social interaction with everybody
And
and
just going
going out.
wherever I like, no restrictions. I could go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that's definitely tough. What I'm going to ask, because there are a couple people on here, so what I want to do is just ask those people if they don't mind if they can send a chat, just a hi or whatever, just so I can see that this is working okay, that you can see the screen, and that you can obviously hear us okay. So if somebody can just send a little chat message, that would be great. And great. Okay. Hello. Can hear and see. Okay. Perfect. All righty. That is excellent. Okay. Well, it's now 3:02. We do have a couple people on here, and we are hoping to get some more people. But Mary, do you want to get started, or do you want to wait a little bit longer? It's really up to you.
Let's give it a couple of more minutes and see what happens. I know that Deb said that she's just finishing a meeting and then she'll be on.
Okay, excellent. That is good. And so tell me a little bit then about what you have been doing during these times. Have you taken, I mean, I know for myself, what I started doing is picking up things that I had started in the past but stopped doing. So I started knitting again, and working right now. And yesterday I started some piano lessons. So what about you?
Wow.
What have you been doing?
So you're so productive. What have I been doing? I've done a little more cleaning and organizing, and I've done a lot of walking in different neighborhoods. I've gone like out of the city even to do some walking. Like last weekend, I went to, I don't know if you've ever been to a place called the York Region Forest.
No.
It's in Stouffville. It's
okay.
beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's stunning, and it's huge, right? And it's, even though there were lots of people that were there, it was like so big that you walk for a long time without even seeing anybody on the beautiful, and it's a forest. It's beautiful.
That's amazing. I know. Yeah. It's crazy when you start exploring the city and the outskirts, just to see what all we have. And it always amazes me, especially now that we're starting to see more people out. I mean, I have a dog, so I go out walking a fair bit, but I'm certainly seeing a lot more people out on the streets, people bike riding, people doing all sorts of stuff, because now that's all we can do. We can't be together, but we can be sort of apart outside, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've also been walking in different neighborhoods, so that's been fun too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, it's 3:05. Do you think do you want to get started?
Sure.
Okay, alrighty, that's great. So I'm just going to put on the screen, these are your credentials, and I'm just going to sort of resume my share, and hopefully everybody can see these slides. But I'll start out by first introducing to everybody. This is Mary Rella and Mary works at Skylark, and it's Skylark Children, Youth, and Families. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Skylark, Skylark is a not-for-profit organization that helps with kids' mental health issues. So, and maybe Mary, you can just talk a little bit about what Skylark does and who you are, and then we can get going.
Sure. So Skylark is a children's mental health agency, and children and youth and family mental health agency. It's a community-based agency. So what that means is that there are a number of different programs. So we work in mental health, and we also work with special needs and developmental needs and complex special needs. So with young people who have been, or children who have been diagnosed with neurodiversity sorts of issues, like complex kind of special needs and developmental needs. And then there's like also a mental health component that offers community-based, appointment-based walk-in, which we've now, it's the new term now that I'm using is talk-in instead of walk-in, because Yeah, because no one's walking in anywhere, right? They're just calling in. So they're calling in and we're also Zooming in for virtual sessions. And we also have specialized groups, as well as specialized uh, kinds of programs, like a dialectical behavioral program. We also
What,
have, um,
what's the
sorry?
dialectical? What was the program that you just mentioned?
That's that's a very specific component of treatment that looks at stress or distress development skills in young people and even in families.
Okay.
And we also have a program called Me and My Baby, which
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's something that I've been working on for a long time. And it is for caregivers and newborns and even pregnancy. So see, pre-pregnancy, right up until about age 3. So, parents and caregivers who may be struggling with some postnatal blues or, may need some other, might have some other issues that they want to talk about with their young baby, they can come in and talk to us about it. So, and we also have community-based programs. Yeah, so there's a lot of different mental health programs, and we have residential programs, and we also have 2-day treatment programs. And we're also in the process of merging with 3 other agencies in the community. Yeah,
which is going to be great. So so thank you so much. That's great. So let's, I guess, kick this off by just recognizing what's happening today, and I guess how things have sort of obviously things have changed for everybody, but the focus for today is really on how has it changed for our kids, and sort of what does the future hold, and what can we do to help these kids.
Yeah, so I mean, life has changed, right? You can't, there's no way that you can get around it. It's changed for everybody. And I think that part of what we're trying to help ourselves do is find some consistency in this new life, right? Like we know that, if any one of us has ever worked in any kind of change management situation, we know that in order for change to really work, we have to balance change and stability. We have to stabilize for a bit, feel good and grounded, and then we can move on to the next thing, right? So part of what's happened in this situation is that there have been so many changes all at once that families, parents, and kids are having trouble balance stabilizing. So as soon as something feels like normal, then the school board says, oh yeah, we're introducing classrooms. So now parents, you got to be teachers too, and as soon as we feel a little bit about that, then there's like some other component that we're trying to figure out, like the playground is closed and now parks are closed, right? Like, so there's so much change happening that it's really hard to stabilize. And so what that does to young kids and to adults is that it sort of promotes like, what I would call the famous 3 C's. You want to control things more. You want to, make sure that you can just prevent any kind of consequences. And, and that in doing that, in controlling things, then, and you think that you're going to keep them consistent, right? So if we can control things, then we can keep them consistent. And if we can keep them consistent, then we're going to avoid every consequence. And that's the kind of thing that can sometimes lead us into some inflexibility and some difficulty. And our kids are dealing with that too. Kids also want to control their environments. And sometimes controlling their environment means controlling their parents. I'm going to tell you what to do, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. And it doesn't matter. 3-year-olds do it, and 13-year-olds do it, and 21-year-olds do it. And, you know, my 30-year-old son is doing it with me, you know, like, you make sure you stay, you know, like, you know, because we're all trying to control, you know.
So how do
So
we then, how do we deal with that? Like how, you know, what should we be doing in this situation where everybody's feeling out of control and all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you've got to be the teacher and everything. What sort of, you know, messages or strategies are you suggesting that parents use or kids use to sort of deal with this?
I think that the most important thing is, excuse me, is to be able to, like, really, I guess, appreciate that, like, let's try to separate out, what does stress behavior look like and what does misbehavior look like? Like, what does behavior that comes from stress looks like? And for a lot of our young kids, you know, part of what we want to be able to, you know, do is help them navigate their stress behavior. You know, look at where the stressors are coming from. It may look exactly the same, but it may be coming from a different place. So for some kids, they externalize their stress, right? They do it by way of controlling the environment and controlling people in their environment. For some other kids, they might internalize that stress. They might get quieter. They might not want to join into activities. They may look like they're not really caring or sleeping too much, and these might be behaviors that are stemming from, you know, stress. In fact, you know, for adults, like, we never say, you know, my gosh, you know, sorry about that, I was misbehaving today. We always talk about our own behaviors as stress behaviors. I had a really stressful day that came from a really stressful this or that, right? Whereas I think with kids, sometimes, you know, parents, it's really hard to tell, you know, like, you know, what's coming from stress and what's not. A lot of things right now probably are coming from stress. Kids are missing activities. They're missing their friends. You know, a lot of kids hated to get up at, you know, 7 o'clock to go to school, but a lot of kids are really missing going to school, you know, and missing just being able to access their friends. So, you know, it's really, really hard for sure. And by the way, our joiners, please send Lisa any questions specifically that you might have, and we can try to answer them.
Great. And how have you guys seen, like, have you seen any increase in the amount of people maybe that are joining the talk-in centers as opposed to the walk-ins? Like, how has sort of that changed? And, you know, what have you seen, I guess, in that way?
Yeah, well, it's been a real mixed bag. Like, I think that our talk-in, or, you know, people calling in and virtual sessions, when it comes to young people who already had relationships with their therapists and parents, you know, those young people are continuing to, you know, be present and available and continuing to do sessions with therapists. Our walk-in / talk-in have really decreased over the last 8 weeks, probably, and we've done some really good research on why is that, like, what's happening.
Right.
It looks like for a lot of situations, kids are having trouble or finding a quiet space to talk. Okay. They may not necessarily even have the technology. There may be shared technology in the house. You know, sometimes parents are also, you know, doing things like, I have to cut your phone off because we're all not working right now, and so we have to, you know, make some decisions as to what things we can eliminate. And a phone is something that, you know, feels the right thing to do to eliminate potentially. So even though we've offered and have offered lots of young people opportunities, we're not getting as many calls as we we're thinking, or because our walk-ins are jam-packed. Now,
Yeah.
interestingly, we have more parents calling. There's a lot more parents calling, or just as many parents as young people calling. So
now,
that's
yeah, I can imagine. And I was also just thinking, you were mentioning technology. Well, I would assume that some of the people that need the help, and maybe their situation is that they're in an environment where maybe they don't have access to technology and then can't do, the talk-ins like you said. Are there things in place that we can, maybe to the people that are going to be listening to this Zoom meeting, can we offer computers, laptops, whatever it is? Is Skylark doing anything to sort of get people to donate unused equipment that we can then, give these kids who need the help access to this stuff?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of initiatives, and Rogers actually came forward and donated about 150 phones for the province.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
And Skylark got about 15 of those phones, so that's great. So we're just, and there's no strings attached. Like, where they gave them to. We have a walk-in called Youth Wellness Hub. So Skylark has one of the Ontario hubs where we actually offer, as well as walk-in, we also offer other supports like psychiatric support and nurse practitioner support, so that there are other services that can be accessed through that service as well. And those are also right now remote. So we can also continue to offer those services remotely as well. And parents are actually calling and wanting information about those services. So because we're one of the hubs, Rogers donated it to, the Youth Wellness Hub Ontario, and then we got 15 phones, and then the other centers across the province also got 15 phones as well, or whatever many phones they needed. We got a little more because of how we're right in central Toronto. So we're offering that, but it still doesn't sort of solve some of the problems for young people, which are privacy. So one of the things that we've done, which is super cool, it's like technology is amazing. So they have their earphones in, so the therapist will talk and the young person will respond by typing. So that, so that just in case like there's like privacy issues and they don't need to be hearing them, what the conversation is. That's something that we've included as part of our, and our Zoom link, by the way, is also the Zoom link that is privacy protected. So once we're on, and like I can lock when I'm on Zoom. I'm not sure about you, Lisa, but I can lock my Zoom, and so no one else, unless they have a password to get in, no one else can get in.
Yeah, I do. I think I have the ability to do that as well. But that's amazing. Now, do you feel that you've seen sort of an increase in, I guess, new kids that have come to Skylark during this time? Or has it been sort of the same people that are already using the Skylark services? What's sort of been happening during the pandemic?
Yeah, so the majority of kids, like I think our last count of just a couple of weeks ago, we had something like over 60 sessions, and of the 60 sessions, I think 22 of them were brand new kids, and all the rest were repeat kids. So I don't know. So our numbers have sort of been inching up. So I'm not sure what that looks like as of right now. But, of course, it's word of mouth. We put something on our Instagram. We work really closely with our social media team, and they're posting stuff daily on, call us. Our posters our office might be closed, but our phone lines are open. Call us. So we're encouraging young people and families to call, and we even have and we've had some really significant calls, like significant families where, they've lost a loved one. And so the young person doesn't want to talk to anybody, but the caregiver is attempting for them to just speak to a voice on the phone, because then it just feels so anonymous. And we even had little kids call, like with the help of their caregiver, call and talk to someone about their sad feelings about, from the loss of someone they loved all the way to, not being able to go to the park. We have lots of kids who are incensed by the idea that their playground is closed. Like, it's really upsetting to them, right?
For sure. And, what are some of the strategies then that, you can suggest that, if your child is in need of help, and are struggling during this time, what are sort of what should we be saying to our kids right now?
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things, and I've also I've talked to a lot of other parents in different contexts, and one of the things that seems to be really confusing to parents at sometimes is that, on the one hand, you don't want to freak out your kid, right? Like, you don't want to give them all the worries out there in the community and out there in the news, and on the other hand, you also want to be able to tune into what it is that they're feeling, right? So kids rely, even young people, even youth, rely on their caregivers as a way to help them interpret the world and interpret what's going on in that world. So the one thing that's really crucial and important is that we tell our young kids and our young people that, yes, there is something called the coronavirus, and it's serious. And it's serious because it can really make people sick. And if people get really sick, it can really, some of them even, can die from it. And so that matches then their internal experience, because, and then the other part is the protective part. And you know what? We can do a lot of things that'll help us to stay safe and healthy. That's why we don't, we're walking apart when we're outside, and we wear gloves and we wear masks. So that helps kids sort of understand that what's going on the outside is making sense. But if we're telling kids it's going to be okay, there's nothing to worry about, everything is okay, it doesn't match their experience. Even little kids know that this is serious if I can't go to school. Like, normally nothing like this has ever happened in my life. So it's really important that parents are able to attend to and match whatever is happening on the outside to what's going on the inside for a kid, and to really be attuned and giving them, information. And also to offer, you can talk to me, you can talk to your other caregiver, we can actually call somebody together. Let's call somebody together. We've had caregivers and their youth, where it's the caregiver who makes the call, and then we help the caregiver give them strategies on how to involve the youth. And even if the youth never calls us, at least we can help the caregiver feel like they're understanding what's going on.
Okay, and we have a question from one of our audience. Any tips for kids in grade 12 who are missing a lot of key events such as prom and grad?
Yeah, for sure. This is where, one of the things that, we've been saying a lot, and I say it as well, is I just attune to their feeling. Again, what I don't do is say, oh, you know what, you'll get another chance, or this will be different another time, or maybe you guys can get together with your friends this way, or let's do a Zoom thing. So I guess what I'm saying is that attune to the feeling first. This is really disappointing. It's so exciting. I still remember my grade 12 prom. Well, that's not true. Grade 13 prom. I'm not that young.
Yeah.
I'm much older. But it's like, it's exciting to be in your last year and to have been planning this, There's no prom dresses being sold, and there's no excitement around getting your makeup done, or getting a tux or whatever have you, or waiting for that moment when you're going to ask the person you've always wanted to ask to do this with, or whatever have you. So these are losses, and loss comes with a feeling called grief. And grief is a feeling that can be extremely difficult and painful, and to some extent gripping, right? So it's really acknowledging that it's too bad that this is happening. It's really disappointing, and nothing will come close. Sure, you can have a Zoom thing with your friends, but it's not going to feel the same. And again, parents often confuse this idea of, yeah, but Mary, am I not making my kid feel worse if I'm telling them that? And the answer is no, you're actually attuning to what's maybe going on for them. And so then once you can attune, then you can go on to the next step. Then you can go to the feel better step, right? Because now that I know that you're feeling better, or now that you know that I know how you feel, now maybe together we can think about steps to do next. Because there is a lot of loss for those young people. There absolutely is a huge amount of loss. They're getting ripped off, and that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And what sort of, again, during these times that are difficult, what sort of message can we give kids about the future? Because, right now the message that's out there, it seems so grim, and if they're listening to the news, it's all, negative. And I don't know, I can't imagine being a young person right now. I don't know what they're thinking. For us that are, I've sort of lived a good life, and, I think it's sort of a bit easier for us, but I don't know. I'm thinking if I was a young person, I would be wondering, well, what is the future now? We were already being told that it's going to be difficult for us to own a home. It's going to be difficult for us to, get jobs and all of these things. And now this is all thrown in there. So what sort of message are we supposed to be sending out to our kids?
Well, that's part of what, that's part of the difficulty, because right now, we can't communicate any form of certainty. The certainty that we had is no longer existing. And because we can't control certainty, we can't even control the control, like I said, that goes with that, right? So to stick with the truth, we're not really sure about that. What about summer camp? Can I go to summer camp? That's a big one. That's a big question. I'm not going to miss that. And you might even get a defiance, right? Like you might even get like I don't care what anyone says, I'm going to go to my summer camp, right? There's a bit of resistance, and that kind of resistance is actually a strength. So if parents are getting a bit of that resistance, that's okay. That's a mobilizing kind of feeling. It's like, damn this, I'm going to do this instead, and that kind of mobilizing feeling, it is necessary at a time when we feel like we don't have control. And so to just sort of connect to it and go and say something like, yeah, kiddo, I hope you can go too. I absolutely would love for you to go too. And we'll see. We'll take it one day at a time. We'll plan one day at a time, And so the idea is to attune first, offer empathy, and then go to any kind of problem solution. If you go to the problem solution first and skip the first two steps, you're not going to attune, and you're not going to offer empathy, and the discussion's going to go off the rails,
And I have another question from somebody here. What do you tell the students that can't get a summer job? What do you suggest for them to move in terms of to move ahead with building their resume? So what are your suggestions there?
Yeah. So a couple of opportunities. I mean, there are some, see, this is the thing, right? I mean, students can apply for some of the like the government benefits, but actually it's more than that. It's more than just the money. They also want to be able to connect, and they want to do something, and
Yeah, they want to be proactive. They don't,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So there may be some opportunities for volunteering. There may be some opportunities to to join committees. So, for example, Skylark has a youth engagement committee,
Okay.
and the youth engagement committee is doing all kinds of really cool things. And not only that, but Skylark is even offering honorariums to those who are volunteering.
All right.
So they're volunteering on, a bunch of different projects. So for example, we have an art gallery that's coming up. And the art gallery is going to be done all virtually. It's something that Skylark has done for 20 years. This was our 20th anniversary this year.
Yep.
And so, kids are submitting artwork, and they're submitting written work, and it's all going to be done virtually. And we're going to, we'd love some volunteers. And if they have like a special talent of some sort, they can also be paid for some of their work. We have like a drop-in called Studio that they can join in and be part of. So, it certainly, isn't the same as work, but they can also get support from peers, like their own peers, like even kids that they don't know, because they're all kind of going through the same thing, right? So doing something around the house, like maybe you have a project that needs, you need a room painted in your house. You might be able to, give them an IOU. If you can pay them, great, but maybe there's some other way to, so depending on whatever skills, like I've read all kinds of really cool things, like young people are doing gardens, like they're connecting to growing tomatoes and, so I think that part of like you can have two ideas, they can come up with two ideas, but, dealing with the fear and the worry first, problem solving second or third, like, in that situation, in that kind of sequence, I mean.
Now, what suggestions do you have with Skylark? I know you deal with a lot of kids that are suffering from addictions. So, what advice do you give parents of kids who have that challenge?
Yeah, so that's a real tough one, because we're asking kids to self-isolate, and at the same time, they may be needing to, go out and get some substances that they need. So our approach at Skylark is a harm reduction approach. And what that means is not closing the conversation to drugs. So, if a young person if you know that your young person is struggling with a substance issue, it's really significant and important that they are talking to you about what that is, and that you look interested and involved with them about that issue as well. So telling them not to do it right now, or telling them things like, well, here's your chance to quit, whether it's cigarettes or whatever, those kinds of conversations, we know from research, they just shut things down. It just shuts the whole conversation down. And now you're frustrated because you don't know what's going on. They're frustrated because any number of reasons, mostly because they're trying to hide things and be secretive. And it's a lot harder to hide things and be secretive right now, right? Like for a number of people, for a number of situations. So as a result, these things are coming to a head and making things more difficult. So we have some really amazing programs at Skylark through the harm reduction group. We have, I'm hoping that we're going to get something out soon. It's called Sessions, and it's for parents. And it's really just a group for parents to tune in and to ask questions about, more specifically around, what do I do with my young person? If my young person is, going to go and get some substance that I'm worried about, and I know they're going, maybe I could offer a drive. And again, it feels counterintuitive because it feels like, like there's no, like, why would I encourage my kid to take something? But at least what you're saying is, I'm clear about the expectation I have, which is that I prefer that you don't take the substance, and yet your safety is primary to me, and that's what I'm going to be acting on. So I need you to know that I am a resource to you in some other way, and I want to know. I would rather know that I can be helping my kid be safe than not knowing how they're getting it, how they're getting there, who they're connecting to, and in what way. So safety first, and being able to appreciate that. And that goes a long way, because if the young person understands and knows that their caregiver understands what's going on for them, that builds a connection. That builds an important opportunity for more talking and more conversation, more opportunity for the parent then to say, hey, what about stopping? What about thinking about other ways to regulate yourself?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very good. And I think, I'm not sure if we talked about this prior to everybody sort of joining, but do you want to talk a little bit about the Me and My Baby phone in?
Sure. So Me and My Baby is a phone in from prenatal right up to age 3. And one of the things that we want to be helping caregivers who've just given birth, moms or dads especially, is that the birth of a baby can sometimes bring on some postnatal challenges, one of which is a mood challenge, but there's also other challenges. There's like sometimes for dads, for example, dads can sometimes really go deep into their soul about what kind of a dad they want to be. There's so little opportunities for dad to talk to anybody about what they're going through. We know, for example, through our research, that if the mom has postnatal depression, it's likely that the dad has it too.
Wow.
In fact, we have research that says that even if the mom is going to treatment, but the dad isn't, she's less likely to feel better in her treatment. So it's a really important component. And one of the things that we want to be able to do is to give that relationship, the infant and the caregiver relationship, as much of an opportunity to develop securely as possible. So the idea is to be able to come in and let us sort of look at depression scales. Let's figure out what your anxiety is, what your stress is. And even if you're pregnant, we can talk to you about what your stressors are to help mitigate that. For example, we know that stress in the mom produces stress in the fetus. After 4 months, the fetus is not protected by that stress hormone can get to the fetus too. So we want to be able to help caregivers and moms in particular, just educate them a little bit about that, so that then they can be helping themselves support how to manage that stress a bit better. So this is a brand new program. Fortunately, we opened our doors in February, like literally 3 weeks before all this hit. So it's not a program that was well known enough, but it's, we're working with public health, and we have caregivers who are calling us as well. So we also have a nurse practitioner that's connected to that program. So if a parent wants to know about toileting or sleeping, or they can also speak to the nurse.
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah.
just a reminder, anybody who's listening, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat and I'll be able to read them out as well. And so what are, now, Mary, I know that you said that you also had some slides in that. I don't know if you're able to share your screen. If you can't, then maybe you can at least talk about some of the other initiatives that you have.
Yeah, sure. I think that, I can't seem to be doing that. But one of the things that, is really important, that might be important for parents is, I've talked about stress behavior, right? Like looking for, what does your child look like when they're experiencing stress? The other thing that would be important is to be able to recognize what helps them come back to feeling calm again. From, whether your child is 3 or 13 or older, like look at the patterns, look at what is causing potentially what the stress is, and then looking at what helps them feel calm again. And if part of like, that's really important because sometimes, we can over focus on the stress stuff and we miss the parts that help kids feel calm. So if the kid needs to, go into their room and shut the door and slam the door and take some space, and that's what's helping them to feel calm, as a parent, you can, once they're calm, to be able to say, hey, I could see that you were really upset. So I can see now that you're feeling a little bit better. Am I right about that? So what happened? Like, tell me what made you feel better. So, the first question is sometimes, tell me what made you so upset. What did I say that made you so upset or whatever? So the conversation goes back to what made you upset versus tell me how you managed to get calm again, right? And kids often will need a caregiver to help them come back to feeling calm, especially young kids. Young kids don't generally feel calm or get to feeling better on their own. They generally need their parents to do that. And one of the ways that we know, even for adults, for example, one of the ways that, we say that if we're in a distress tolerance treatment modality, one of the first things that we teach young kids and youth and even adults who are in those programs is to help them calm down first. Like to help their heart rate go back to normal, to help their breathing go back to normal. So we often teach, something called using your 5 senses to get back to feeling calm, right? Maybe, smelling something that makes you feel calm. Listening to music might make you feel calm. Doing 5 jumping jacks, doing something physical might make you feel calm, right? So like being able to recognize, we use ice packs a lot, like, holding something, even washing your hands with cold water will help you, breathing will help you feel calmer, right? It's impossible to be that dysregulated if you're breathing heavily and you're pace breathing. So these are some of the things that would be really helpful to be able to help the parent know about their kid. And if their kid doesn't know these things, you can help them say, okay, hey, let's find, you really like you like your little bear, or like whatever helps them feel calm. That's the first step. And then again, you can process whatever expectation you had that didn't get met second. If you're going to deliver an expectation or a boundary, like delivering it softly is a much better way than delivering it like, there's the limit. Like sometimes what happens with caregivers is that the boundary gets stretched, and then all of a sudden it's like hammering the limit. That's it. Now you've reached the limit, right? Well, there's no flexibility in a limit, right? So the flexibility needs to come way sooner And, you know, and it's really important for sometimes parents to also say, look, you're going to really not like what I'm about to say, and I appreciate that, but here it is anyway, you know, like, you know, and setting limits that might be important in that way.
So just talking about limits, because if you are parents of, you know, teenage kids or young adults, sometimes those limits get really pushed. And so how do you know that, okay, well, and I understand the flexibility and that during these times, maybe you have to be a little bit more, I don't know if the word is lenient, but I guess that's my question is, you know, how do you know when you as a parent should just, okay, you know, you got to sort of just relax a bit more and understand your child's going through something, as opposed to then seeing that they're doing things that maybe are harmful to themselves or harmful to others,
Yeah.
or they're, you know, maybe they're, because of all the isolation and everything they're going through, maybe all of a sudden they become violent or abusive, and, you know, verbally abusive. Like, how much as parents, how much are we supposed to sort of, I guess, take, as opposed to,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And see, the thing about it is that, you know, like, we need to be, you know, regulated. Like, we need to come back to places of calm in more than just our emotion, right? Like, our emotion domain is just one, but there are four others. One of which is our thinking domain, our cognitive domain. So, you know, this is a really important piece of equipment up here. So it helps us to think and plan and organize and be flexible and not be impulsive, right? So when our emotion domain is screaming, like loud, when the volume is up on our emotions, our thinking domain is not available to us. We're not going to be thoughtful and exercising flexibility and, you know, thinking, oh, you know, he didn't really mean that. And so that is going to throw things off, right? So when our stress response, when it's the loudest thing going on is the emotion, there's no opportunity to talk to the reasonable part of our mind. So as parents, we need to calm the emotion mind, and then we can reason with the thinking brain. But if we're just trying to give consequences and trying to set limits in the state of the high emotion, that's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to be a very frustrating, you know, component. And remember the 3 C's, right? Think about, what is the control here? What kind of control is being exercised here? And for what reason? Like, what consistency, you know, can I provide so as to mitigate any kind of consequences? Like, those are, like, if we're feeling out of control, we're not going to stay that, we're not going to be stable. And if we're trying to get control, and, you know, it's a fantasy that, you know, like, every once in a while it works. Like, I don't know about anyone on listening, but whenever I exercise control, like you're doing this right now, and it works, I'm shocked as heck. I'm like, holy crow, it worked. Like, it's not always the experience. So to be able to really appreciate that this is a stress behavior, it's coming out of somewhere. So how can you be empathetic to that? And then, by the way, go and get your own empathy, because you can't just give it. You better get it yourself. So your kid isn't going to be doing that for you. But I'm, you know, hopefully someone in your life can hear you and can hear you say, that was brutal. This is really hard for me. I'm losing it. My own emotions are like revved up. So let someone help you co-regulate. But if you're trying to co-regulate with your kid, that's going to be really hard right now, really hard.
and we just have another question. How do we calm our emotions amid turmoil? What would you suggest?
Okay, so the first thing that you can do to calm that emotion mind is using your five senses. So you know that when you're in that emotion-based mind, your wise, reasonable mind is probably offline. And so what you want to be able to do, you can't process anything when you're in that state. It's hard to process. So the most you want to do is just come back to a place of being able to process. It's not going to solve the problem, but at least it's going to give you a little bit more window into thinking about what's going on, right? So the first thing we want to do is use those five senses. Go grab something cold, hold it in your hand, take 10 deep breaths. You know, I personally have a lavender pouch. I smell my lavender. Like it is a soothing, comforting smell for me. It helps me calm. It gives my brain, the part of my brain that thinks we're in immediate danger, it gives my brain the signal that there's no danger. It's going to be okay. Like it's tough, but it's not, I'm not in any imminent danger. So use your those five senses. Smell something you like. Listen to something, you know, and so for some of us, some senses are better and more neat, you know, are keener than others. So like, I'm not going to go I would never gravitate to putting my hands under cold water. That's not what I do. That would escalate me a bit.
That doesn't sound good.
Right. But that's a really good one, you know,
Oh.
and, you know, so grabbing an ice pack, breathing, like doing some pace breathing, you know, breathe in for 5, breathe out for 10, you know, breathe in for 10, breathe out for 5, like whatever your pace is, that breathing immediately calms the central nervous system, immediately. Being able to, like I said, smell something, listen to music, you know, do 5 jumping jacks. Like something that involves intensity physically brings you back into a place of calming yourself. It just sends the message to your brain, right? The brain that says we're in danger. It just sends a message that says, no, we need to calm right now. We just need to breathe again. So that's the first thing you do. And then you can get back online. Then you can be reflective. Then you can think and plan and organize and stop yourself from being impulsive on doing something.
Now, for those kids who claim or who say that, you know, things like, okay, well, smoking pot calms me and things like that, you know, is that something that as a parent you should say, you know, what do you say? Is that okay? Is it not okay? Is it like, how do you look at
Be
things?
curious. Yeah, I would be, you know, like curiosity is a really important component, which is, you know, how does it calm you? What does it do for you that it makes you feel calm? You know, when did you first realize that it made you calm? Like, do you remember, you know, how you discovered that it was calm, that it makes you calm? And are there other things, you know, and when you're calm, what does it help you do better? So when you do smoke pot and then you're able to do what better? Like get more information. Let the kid tell you what's happening in their inner world, right? And again, you're not encouraging them to do it. As a parent, you want to have a conversation with them about it that says, you know, I don't understand it. You know, like, you know, smoking pot to me makes me worry that you know, you get complacent. To me, it looks like you're not caring about things, but to you, what you're telling me is that it actually helps you concentrate better. Wow, I didn't know that. So being able to have discussion about it is much more conducive to relationship and security. Because as soon as you say, well, I don't agree with that, then the conversation's closed. Other than the fight. The fight is always available, right? It's like, too bad you don't agree with it. Well, too bad for you, basically. Mm-hmm. Then you're just opening the door to the conflict. But the curiosity allows for information that might help the relationship in some other way.
And okay, that's great. And in terms of just the entire family unit, how, you know, I'm sure this, as you said before, this affects really everybody. So any strategies on, as the entire family unit, like what everybody, you know, should be, could be doing together that they're not already? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, you know, might be important is to just do a daily check-in, you know, like, how are people doing? Like, you know, if people are like with my team, I'm doing a daily check-in with them. You know, how are people doing? How are you managing your job? What's difficult or not difficult? Like, what fun thing happened to you today? Does anyone have a joke to share? Like, these are the things that we're trying to do virtually, right?
Yeah.
To keep people engaged. Well, your family is not, you know, our families are different than that. So you might want to do a daily check-in, and you might, you know, you might think together as a family, you know, 5 questions that you want to organize, like answer together. Like, what was the best part of your day? You know, what was the best meal we had? I don't, whatever. Just a check-in. It's just a coming together and just saying, hey, how are people doing today? How did things go today? Or how are things going so far? So managing school, I know for a lot of young people and families, is extremely stressful.
For sure.
Very stressful.
Yeah.
You know, especially for kids who, at the best of time, really need someone close by to help them do their work, right? So it's, you know, I mean, I always go with choose the relationship first, because you will figure out, like, your employer needs to understand what's going on in your life. Like, you're a parent first, and the other thing may need to wait 15 minutes, you know? So just like checking in and being able to provide for each other, or for, you know, the family, an opportunity to just talk about stuff.
Okay. Oh, I have another question that's come in. What if the child misinterprets the effect that his behavior has on his personality? For example, they think it helps, but to the parent, the behavior makes the child dysfunctional, and they then are not completing the daily tasks required.
Yep. All I can say is, yep. Yeah, I mean, for the parent, and I think it's the, like, back to the, like, smoking pot or taking a substance. Yeah.
Probably similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be conducive, you know. And one of the things that I mean, you can, as the parent, when you're in that curiosity, when you're in the conversation, you know, then you can actually offer up some components of, you know, what I see. You know, what I see is that when you're doing this, I see a behavior that looks like it doesn't make you want to even engage with us, you know, makes you really separated from us. And I'm just wondering if is that a helpful thing? Like, is there anything we can do to make you feel, you know, safer, and so that you don't need to do that? Or is there anything, you know, can you engage with us even if you have smoked pot? Because sometimes what happens is that, you know, parents will give kids the directive, like, if you're going to smoke pot, I don't want you engaged with us, right? Or, and then that becomes, okay, I'm going to choose my substance, and now I'm mad at you because I feel rejected by you. So there's another thing to be repairing around, and I don't feel like I belong here, and so that's just going to make me smoke pot.
Right.
You know, so, you know, of course it looks like, and probably is, but probably there are other components that are also contributing to the dysfunctional behavior, to behaviors that don't look like engaged or functional. Yeah.
So does that mean we should be trying to discover those other behaviors, or?
Yeah, be curious. and don't be a detective. Be curious, right? Like
Okay.
curiosity is more like, I really want to know about your inner world. I want to know what's going on in your mind, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not detecting. I'm not like asking you questions so that I can, pinpoint what's good, and like that's because that'll feel intrusive and it's shut down. But
Well,
curiosity.
what do you do with the child that just doesn't want to engage with you for whatever reasons?
Then
Maybe.
you leave it. It's like, okay, this isn't the time for us to talk. But I want you to know, I'm going to try again because you're important to me, and I want to be part of your life. So leave it and go back to it. Leave it and go back to it. One of the most important things about relationship is that the ruptures that happen are not anywhere near as important as the repair. It's the repair and its efforts to repair that make the relationship secure.
So
not prevention, interestingly.
So in the child's mind is what you're saying, that even though you may have had a history of, confrontation and things like that, that the message that I'm hearing from you is that if you sort of keep trying and sort of, keep at it,
Yeah.
that the child, even though they still may never want to engage with you, at a certain point, they might, I guess they might get it, or they might respect that,
Yeah.
or something might change.
They're gonna feel cared for. That's the most important thing. You feel cared for. When someone is making an effort to care for you, you know it.
Okay, that's a good.
And that's the message. That's the effort. Yeah.
And Mary, what other slides or sorry, what other things did you want to share with us? Because I know, as I said, that unfortunately, I guess I didn't get your slides, but
that's okay. You know what? It's 4:00 and I have another meeting.
Oh, okay, very
I
good.
only booked till 4:00. Is that what you had too?
That is fine. Oh, I can keep going and going. But no,
I'd be happy to, like, maybe there's some other questions that parents have and they want to reconnect with you, and we could definitely do this again. Like,
we can do it again. Absolutely. So I guess, so maybe if you can leave us with, is there a positive, anything positive that we're going to see out of the COVID-19 situation?
Oh man, if I could give you that, wouldn't that make me like the hero or something? The only thing I can say is that, relationships are really hard. And this is an opportunity where our relationships are being tested because we haven't chosen to do relationships like this. They've been forced upon us. So just give each other and give yourselves and give your kids as much compassion as possible, because that is what's going to breed change. That's what's going to make us, at the very least, feel not stuck and, like open to what's coming next. Because let's face it, we don't know what's coming next. No. We don't know. So we're gonna have to do it and navigate it together. We need each other. So yeah. So I don't have an answer for that, Lisa. I wish I did, but
all right.
That's what I would say.
No problem. Well, I just want to remind everybody that Mary's with Skylark, and there's a couple websites for you. The email, Skylark is a nonprofit organization. They do rely on donations. It's an amazing organization, and you can certainly visit the website. And if you did like this meeting, I'm sure they would appreciate any kind of donation that anybody can offer. That's always great. If you found this valuable, then hey, it's like a trip to the movies, something like that. If you want to think about it and donate to Skylark, that would be amazing. And Mary, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And thanks to everybody that was listening. we have, I hope anyhow, that this has been recorded, and if it has been, I'll certainly share it to those that were unable to make it. And if you do want to, hear from Mary again and continue the talk, then by all means, send me a message and let me know. Any closing words, Mary? Is that?
No, thank you so much. And, we always appreciate donations, but I also want you to know that, I don't need a donation to come back and talk to you guys. So.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much. And everybody, thanks for listening. And this concludes the meeting for today.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.